Our next presentation is going to talk about producing professional quality live streams with remote speakers. Now, we're using Zoom today, and we use Zoom because it's a reliable audio and video delivery system. People know how to use it, as we've often, everyone has Zoomed, if not Zoomed to death at this point. But when you're producing live events with remote speakers and you want to get that next level of reliability, that next level of quality, you need a little something more. For an event like this, it's just fine. It's some talking heads, and there's another talking head joining me right there. Hey, George.
Hey.
But you can achieve that next level of quality and next level of reliability using solutions like the ones Epiphan Video has to offer. So, George, I'll pass things over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, and I wanted to also just thank Todd, Neil, and Peter for making some excellent points before me. And a lot of it kind of set up to some degree what I'm going to talk about. And that is exactly as you said, Eric, producing professional quality live streams with remote speakers. And I think, as you mentioned, Eric, everyone kind of very quickly pivoted to Zoom, Teams, whatever conferencing application of their choice. A year ago, as we suddenly found ourselves in these lockdown scenarios, and many of us still are, and many people are still trying to adapt to this, and some call it a new normal, and I think some of it probably will carry on even as things get back to normal. But these conferencing apps, because they're so easy, because people were familiar with them already, was the easy pivot. But I think we could do better, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So one of the challenges, of course, is that, these conferencing applications like Zoom make it really easy to deliver that content. They have tools built in, like Zoom does, to send an RTMP stream to the CDN of your choice. And that's great. Makes it really easy, makes the entry seamless for most people since they're very used to it. Zoom has become a household name. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows how to use it. Your kids are using it for school. You're using it all day for work, whatever the case may be. So it's pretty comfortable. But there are definitely some limitations and some accidents that can happen along the way. Let's be honest, we've all seen the Zoom fails that have happened now and then, whether it's people being cats or whether it's just noise in the background, or maybe it just doesn't look that good. Maybe it doesn't sound that good. And I think that's where we need to look at solutions of improving that, because does it really look professional if we're using a built-in webcam pointed up our nose? Does it really sound professional if we're using the open microphone on our laptop? Does it look professional if we're using filters, making ourselves into cats? Probably not. And these are things that we have to take into consideration, as I think these technologies that we were kind of forced to pivot into are going to stick around, and we're going to continue to see them being used very heavily. So I think the first layer to that is we can use Zoom as a source, and we can create a hybrid environment where we have Zoom there because people are familiar with it. It's easy. Everyone has it. But take that output from maybe a computer running Zoom, take a high quality video feed from that into another production system, and I'll shamelessly pitch our products through this as well. And in our case, I'm representing this with our Pearl 2 hardware encoder. But take that, use that production system to crop sections of the gallery view to improve what we're seeing, trim out the ugly UI elements of Zoom to improve what we can do. This also opens up a whole other world of production possibilities, streaming to multiple platforms at the same time, using protocols that maybe Zoom doesn't natively support, recording ISOs of these different inputs if our production system supports that. When we start to look, and this is representative of the Pearl UI, but we look at some of the other elements we can add in production systems, we can be more creative with graphics. We can use transparency layers. We can use chroma keying for different elements. We can kind of just really improve the look and feel of how that content is being created and how it's being presented. And ultimately, the more engaging the content is, the more people are going to engage with it. And that's obviously the goal of everyone, right? Is we want our audiences engaged and active and paying attention to what it is that we're doing. So it could be as simple as, like I say, take that Zoom and send it into an encoder, do your production there, add some graphics, dress it up, make it look nice. And there's lots of ways that you could do this. But what if I said there was an even better way to do this, to get rid of maybe that last barrier that conferencing gives us? And that last barrier is limited control over the quality of video and audio that we have. So I think there is a better way, and this is exactly what we've been doing here at Epiphan for our own internal content creation for just about a year now. I introduce and propose using SRT for this type of higher quality transport. So those not familiar with SRT, stands for Secure Reliable Transport. It's a protocol created by Haivision and designed to be low latency, pretty network and firewall friendly, and most of all secure because it does offer encryption. Haivision thought this is a lot of things, including a possibility of using the internet we use every day and using lower cost products and easier cost of entry to replace the older traditional satellite truck, if you will. So instead of spending millions on satellite trucks, what if we could do it with things we might already have and achieve, in many cases, better results? And so I would say we can take that same philosophy and apply that to video conferencing as well. So one of the things that makes SRT really nice is that unlike some of the more traditional streaming protocols like RTMP, where you mostly just kind of throw it at the wall and hope it sticks, SRT is much more advanced in some of the other features it has. So it does have the traditional video and audio stream going from point A to point B, but it also has a secondary data channel as a back channel with diagnostic and packet recovery information. That allows us to gain a lot of stats about what's happening. We can look at the stats and see our round trip time. We can look at our packet loss percentage, and we can make decisions based on those numbers to see the quality of our connection and adjust it as necessary. This gives us a lot of power and strength. And it means that we can bring that latency way down compared to some of the other things. And this is where, the other guys mentioned latency quite a lot. And, typical what we're used to for traditional broadcast television was mentioned earlier, about 5 to 8 seconds. And, when we look at other stream types, they're kind of in that space, and some are much longer. On a strong connection, it's possible to have SRT down below 100 milliseconds. Even on weaker connections, it's very possible to have it under a second. And these are things that we can easily achieve with the right technologies. And of course, our total latency from creation to consumption, there's always going to be some additions there as we add the CDN, maybe adds a bit more, transcoding adds a bit more, and so on. But as we can shorten each part of that chain, it ultimately shortens the whole chain, hopefully. And if we can start with something that's low latency like SRT, it really helps. I think the other thing that's been really exciting about SRT is that it is backed by the SRT Alliance, made up of 450 plus members at this point. And these are companies, many of whom are represented here today, that are working as a collective to see this technology really shine. Ourselves here at Epiphan Video are part of the Alliance, as are many of our friends at places like Wowza, Bird Dog, and so on. And I'll mention Bird Dog a little later here. But this means that every now and then, these companies also get together and play in a sandbox to figure out how to interop this. And because they're using this technology, it makes interop even easier between different products, whether those are hardware encoders like we make, whether they're CDNs out there, whether they're camera manufacturers. But being able to bring these all together over a single protocol is pretty exciting. So how do we bring in a remote guest over SRT? That's ultimately the question and what I'm trying to propose. How we could do this is we can send out a remote hardware encoder. In this case, I'm representing our Pearl Nano, our most recent small hardware encoder, have our camera and audio, hopefully high quality ones, plugged into that encoder, and it would send SRT to our production hub, totally remotely. In our case, I'm representing our production hub with Pearl 2. That Pearl 2 can ingest that SRT stream, maybe add some other elements of production, and send it back out to the final destination, maybe in another stream type, maybe also in SRT, multiple destinations at the same time, whatever you need. If we need to scale this up into multiple guests, then yes, we would have multiple endpoints with multiple remote contribution encoders. And in this case, I'm showing, several Pearl Nanos, all feeding those back again into our centralized production hub. It can then do all the mixing and switching between these different streams and then record and stream onto the final destination. One of the things that is interesting, people say, okay, well, that sounds great on paper, but who's actually doing this? And we use this. And I'm going to show you exactly how we do this and describe to you how we do this. About a year ago, when everything kind of went crazy, we started out like most people did and pivoted immediately to Zoom. We were already a Zoom customer. We'd been using it for over a year for a variety of things anyways. And so that made our transition to work from home instantaneous. And we were very lucky to have that. We started doing our content creation that way, but very quickly we're very unsatisfied with the quality of the image and the audio that we were getting from Zoom, and we wanted to find a better way. It just so happened that we were already in the process of rolling out SRT into our hardware encoders. And so we distributed, for those of us who do content creation, we distributed those encoders to our homes. Many of us had them anyways, and started using SRT as our workflow. This allowed us to make the most of our individual internet connections, bringing up the overall quality of video and audio we were contributing to the production. And this made a huge difference. And I cannot tell you the comments I get about how good our productions look compared to what they were. I did a webinar yesterday for 2 hours, and there's just nonstop comments about how good and how high quality it was. And that's all thanks to the way we're using SRT to deliver it. So what we do is we still do use Zoom, but we use it as only a back channel of audio communication so that our multiple remote participants can communicate in real time. Those remote participants are also sending an SRT stream with their high quality camera and high quality audio through SRT into our main studio production hub using a Pearl 2, where it then mixes and switches between all of that content and then sends it back out to the final destination. This makes it honestly very easy for most people to set up. We can even pre-configure these remote contribution encoders. I've participated in a bunch of webinars and content creation using it this way. And when we do it here, fairly locally with our staff in our Ottawa, Canada kind of region, it's very easy for me to do about 100 millisecond latency. When I need to bring in someone from our California office, we need to bring that up a bit, and it's about 200 milliseconds. I've joined webinars with some of our distribution partners in Europe, sending an SRT stream from my home to Belgium, and I've had to go to 300 milliseconds to play it safe, but that's still pretty fast. And the worst case I've been involved in is bringing in some of our friends at Bird Dog in Australia to join us on a webinar, and their connection wasn't great, and it's the other side of the world. And the worst case we had to do was 500 milliseconds. This made a huge difference in how we were able to deliver content. And this has been a fantastic experience from someone who stares into camera lenses a lot during the day, and can be very, very good. So I've talked about Pearls a lot, so I wanted to kind of give a quick summary of what those Pearls are. The Pearl encoders are a family of hardware encoders for live streaming and recording. There are 3 models in that family line now. They're all designed to be versatile, reliable, easy to use, and of professional quality. Multiple video inputs, multiple audio inputs, multiple streaming and recording formats. And this gives us a lot of flexibility. One of the ways we really see this going forward, and we're really excited about 2021 for this, is seeing our new Pearl Nano used as a remote contribution over SRT, funneling into Pearl 2s for the production hub. So with Pearl 2 as that production studio hub, it has up to 6 simultaneous SRT inputs that it can then mix and switch together and deliver multiple encoded outputs. With Pearl Nano, it's very small. Unfortunately, mine is tucked away at the moment, but it's a very small box that you could easily ship in a fly case to a remote contributor, pre-configured. They just need to power it up and push a start stream button. And that's pretty much the way it goes. With all of the Pearl products, either using our own Epiphan cloud system or using some series of your own controlled VPNs or remote desktop tools, you could even have an entirely remote producer controlling the end-to-end control over these pieces. They could be controlling the remote Pearl Nano at the same time remotely controlling a centralized Pearl 2 somewhere. And as a presenter, that actually makes my life a lot easier because I can just kind of show up, stare at the camera. I know my producer has started my SRT stream, and I can focus on what's important in terms of presenting instead of worrying about the technical. So this has been something we've really enjoyed doing. We're going to continue to do it. And I've had some amazing conversations with companies and organizations that are looking to do exactly this and really do see SRT as a potential way to increase the quality that they're able to deliver. So if you want to learn more, of course, check out our website, epiphan.com, for all of the Pearl product information. And you can always send us questions by email as well. And hopefully we have a few minutes for questions because I think a couple came in, Eric.
Yeah, we do have a couple questions. One was asking whether or not the Pearl offered sub 1 second SRT latency. I think you answered that pretty clearly that it does.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of SRT is that you can actually set the latency yourself. It's a manual, it's something you can control. So assuming that you have a strong enough network, because that's really the determining factor. If you have a strong enough network, absolutely. And I've seen some pretty horrendous networks that are still well below 1 second. And like I said, from Australia to Ottawa, Canada, 500 milliseconds.
That's pretty great. The other two questions that came in have to do with codecs, and there's always one. But it's a streaming media audience, and we love to talk codecs here. When will the Pearl support AV1, and does it support HEVC?
So currently, we don't support either of those. We're looking at hopefully in the not too distant future after launch of adding HEVC, H.265, to the new Pearl Nano. We know the hardware can do it, so that is an objective for that product. Some of the others, we'll have to see. The codec's a challenge on hardware, so it's something to look at. But those are things we definitely have in mind and are looking at.
All right, sounds good. That wraps things up with George. George, that was a terrific presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.